What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, doing a little two for McDoofer today, and I'm checking out a list that I hadn't explored for a long time now. I came up with like this weird intermediary list. So when I first started playing it, Elf was around. It was really really fun. I had a great time bringing back a Melffy's. It was perfect. Of course, I got banned, and then I started playing around with Runicks a little bit, but come to learn that Runicks are good. I just don't like them. I genuinely don't enjoy playing with those cards, so I don't play them. So I'm kind of back down to the basics, and this is my most recent Spright Melffy list, and it is like actually Melffy. There's a lot of, well, I've seen a lot of people play this little caddy penny line in Spright players, and that's not that I play like that much more, Melffy cards, just a little bit more. Kind of like a full package, like one Wally. I used to run this at multiples, but it's like the most accessible card in the deck, essentially. So let's go through the card by card. I'm going to show that, and then I'll show some gameplay at the end. 3 copies of Ash, 3 copies of Imperm, 3 copies of Droll, and 3 copies of Fenrir. 12 going second cards, can't complain too much there. 1 copy of Wally, or 2 copies of Caddy. You can use this effect twice, and it's pretty much the only one you'll want to use twice. So Caddy can get you Hoppier Squadron. It can also get you Penny. So it's worth playing for sure. You need to be able to bring out 2 from the deck too. So if you hard open one and you have Wally, it just depends. In my opinion, this is like the perfect Melffy lineup. I've been playing this for a long time. 1 copy of Penny, 1 copy of Puppy. Puppy brings out your Kalantosa, mystical beast of the forest. Just a little guy, it's just a little guy. And then Hoppier Squadron. You can do some really cool things with Hoppier Squadron. It's one of my favorite cards. There's another build I play, like this old build, which I'll showcase soon, that uses Eldritch, and like it gets even more cool, like the things that you can do with it. But there is like some super spicy text, which I'll talk about when I get to the extra deck. 3 copies of blue, 3 copies of Jet. No surprises there. 1 copy of red, 1 copy of carrot. Now this is where, like, okay, my list definitely gets different. And if you are playing pure Spright, of course you're running this at 2, you're running this at 3. And it can be a little bit awkward, right? If you open one of these, well, I should only say Nimble Beaver specifically, sorry. Because I actually run a little Sacred Beast package, so you can discard this anyways. And you just essentially don't have to go into Spright Sprint. But yeah, this is technically the only thing that's bad. Although if you do open Nimble Beaver, you just normal summon it. So you kind of get 2 out of it either way. Really, no matter what you do. And it only sucks if you draw both these at the same time. But you're bound to break in any deck, right? I don't want to play this at multiples because they're not really cards that you want to see. Especially in this version, because I do run Dark Beckoning Beast and 3 Opening the Spirit Gates. So, there's like 3 copies, essentially. If you open this one and this one, that is kind of unfortunate. But it's something I'm willing to kind of live with. Because there are times when you just open up Nimble Beaver. It's like, okay, cool, I have 2 level 2 monsters, 3 copies of Starter and 1 copy of Smashers. So I feel like kind of a standard list with just a little bit. Instead of these extra cards, I run more Melffy cards. Now onto the extra deck, Melffy's. So this is the synchro that bounces a card to the hand, which is really good. And this is like where my spicy tech comes in, I guess, Desert Lotus. So if you go into Melffy's and you have Hoppier Squadron, you can turn that into Desert Lotus, which forces your opponent to discard a card, because they'll be doing this during their turn. And then immediately after, you can Synchro, and you can usually go to a level 8, because this is a 6. You'll have a 2 on the board. Now there's tons of Synchro rates. I just really like Draco Berserker of the Denyi, so that's the one that I play. So you're like, while you get this card on the field, your opponent also has to ditch a card in their hand. Kind of an interesting little resource loop. Melffy of the Forest, this is the one that adds Wally, and it's also kind of like a super mega imperm, which is nice. Where like the opponent's monsters are negated forever. 1 copy of Gigantic, 1 copy of Sky Cavalry, Downer, Zeus to have a double pop. Maybe you want to run another copy of Gigantic, and maybe you should. Oh, actually, I already do, never mind. So I was able to fit that in. So you do get lots of room for essentially just like whatever. Ninja Shadow, the Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin. These are all just kind of like meh cards, but there really aren't that many things that you can do past this. The rank 2 pool is like really bad. 1 copy of Spright Sprint, 1 copy of Almirage. Like the cool thing about this engine is you can normal summon, bring in another copy essentially. Turn one of them to Almirage, bring back with opening the Spear Gate. So you kind of have 3 level 2s out of it. Because, like, you can use Almirage to go into Sprint. And it doesn't require 2 level 2s, just a level 2. Which is pretty nice. IP Masquerade and then SP Little Knight for when you have extra material. You can throw in Gin Buster and get rid of one of these. I don't know. I just kind of like having these flexible cards to get rid of monsters on the board. Because most of the time, you're going to go into Melffy of the Forest, which they don't technically do the same thing, but they kind of do because they negate monster effects. And this one obviously just like gives you way more advantage. So that's a deck profile. Let's go ahead and jump over into some replays. So this is a really good opening. Just because Fenrir's such a good card. Like going first for a second. You get free discard fodder too. It does depend on the hand. Like in this case, like, oh, okay, I can just discard this extra copy. But if I didn't, then I can like discard the Fenrir for free. He did have Imperm and also Ash, but I actually had Wally in my hand. So this just showcases like, God, like one Wally does so much. I also have Ash in my hand, so I'm going to go ahead and Ash that. I still have Fenrir, I still have Wally. I usually don't like cards that like depend on your opponent playing, because they're just like your opponent, like by literally playing the game, like normal, like summoning monsters is going to trigger your Melffys. So yes, it does depend on your opponent, but not that much. If your opponent wants to play, they're going to have to do something. This is against, I think it's like dragons or something. I couldn't really tell what this deck was. Again, a really good opening. Going first or second, obviously. Yeah, that doesn't really do anything necessarily. Like, I can just bring that back. I get the extra normal summon. I can go into Sprite's Rend and then bring 2 guys out. Having Penny in your hand is good. Like, seeing, like, one of the Melffys just means, like, you just grab the other one. It's kind of this very interesting, like, balance. Where you're never really going to break. Like, any Melffy card that you see is good. Because in this case, I can bring out Wally. And instead of adding Penny, I just add Hoppier Squadron. So that's why you run 2, cards to search. He did have Lightning Storm, that's fine. He even had, Fallen of Albaz. So he does get to go into this. Not really sure why. I mean, when you play casual decks, like, you ask your opponent is not going to, like, really know what your deck is doing. So there goes Droll. So his, field spell isn't doing nothing at all. I can bring that back to the deck, and yeah. So that's pretty good. His Juice Worm, I think I could have easily essentially just gotten rid of it. I didn't have anything else after that, obviously. This is against Lightsworn. Pretty consistent deck because, again, starter gets you to the same end board. Like, seeing starter is essentially the same as seeing opening the Spear Gates. If you see both, it's also really good. Now, when I already have Wally, like, you essentially get to just search Penny. So, again, you get Hoppier Squadron. If I didn't have Wally, I would just search Wally. So, there's always something to search. And this, of course, is, like, pretty good. Being able to go into SP, Wally. This is kind of like an Imperm. I do have Imperm. And I also have Droll. So, I can bring out 2 from the deck. He summoned again, so I can have Hoppier Squadron. I can go ahead and Imperm there, but I just had so much more interruption. This is against Madolche. So this is just one of those hands like, oh, like technically Nibble Beaver is a brick, but like, okay, actually it's kind of a good normal summon in that case. Starter is just a ridiculous card, obviously. It's very good. And it's cool, like, when you don't have a lot of cards, like, when you play Spright, I feel like there are times where you kind of can't do anything, or at least not anything too meaningful. But in this case, just having the ability to make 1 rank 2, like, definitely puts me in this game. And the Imperm is there. I still have both of these. So that was pretty nice. This is against... We'll just do one last one. Again, Nimble Beaver can be used as a normal summon. There we go. I have Spright Blue, so it's like the effect failure is just kind of him losing a card. I think that's what makes Spright so good. It just kind of eats hand traps. Nothing is like overly too impactful. Like Ash and effect failure. And then here we go again. Just the simple setup. He negated Melffy with a forest. I'm not really sure why. So he can't do anything there. I don't know what else is in his hand. Talents, but, you know, I have carrots. We technically get onto the battle phase and, like, maybe even played that better. But I would have been in a really good position, obviously. So, yeah, that is Spright Melffy. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Other than that's going to do it for today's video, and I will see you guys next time.